What I loved about the script is that ultimately there's a story of friendship and an adventure around, you know, a character that we've all grown to love so much over the years. And I guess, you know, subjectively for me, turns out I became an actor. And I would say seeing a lot of Nicolas Cage's movies had a lot to do with why. I saw all of Nicolas Cage's movies when I was younger. And I think his more than anyone's. And my family was a very movie-going family. And I grew up in the 80s. And I'm talking about all of them. Talking about, you know, maybe I didn't realize then that he was, you know, flipping burgers and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I figured it out eventually, but we could start with, you know, Rumblefish, Valley Girl, Racing the Moon with Sean Penn, and Birdie, and then Peggy Sue Got Married, Raising Arizona. Had a tremendous impact on me. The movie, his performance, and Moonstruck, and it just goes on from there, really. And so what I mean to say is that I was so, my brain was such a sponge, and was so influenced by what he was doing, that it's very surreal to be, you know, in something with him. I had a meeting with Tom and Kevin in LA, I think early in casting when I was in the mix, you know, for the part. And we ended up just talking about Nicolas Cage movies more than we did the actual movie that the meeting was about. And I think that if anything, the one thing that I couldn't hide or didn't have to fake was my knowledge and enthusiasm for Nicolas Cage's career. And I thought maybe it would be too on the nose. I'm not part of a, you know, crime syndicate, but I'm definitely a fan. And so that kind of, you know, maybe was part of convincing them. I think Javi adores Nick Cage above anyone else because he has taste. And obviously, you know, there's so much about Nick's performances that are wild, you know, and also skillful and, you know, spontaneous and original and, except I mean it. And so I think that that's everything that Javi doesn't dare to be. He's too afraid to, so he lives vicariously through these performances, and I think it just inspires him to, you know, to take risks, ultimately. And because Nicolas Cage takes so many risks in his work. And I hadn't even thought of that, and I'm already basically done shooting the film. Well, Javi's feelings for Gabrielle aren't complicated. They're very specific. He's in love with her. Love is very complicated. The circumstances are complicated. And I think that, you know, he starts out wanting to meet Nick Cage and celebrating his 40th birthday party with his hero, and ultimately, maybe unconsciously knowing that it's the way to make him change his life and follow his heart. Poor Javi.
So,
What a little coward. I'm not unfamiliar with comedy. I've done a lot of theater and, you know, done comedies within that medium, but I'm not, you know, known as far as film and television for any comedy at all. And so it's been an incredible experience and opportunity to be able to show that part of myself, or allow that part of myself to, in a way, kind of a truer part of myself to be exposed, which will be really sad if I'm not good in this. Me. I think they'll love me, mostly. And then maybe, you know, these shoes.
People that were involved with the band would say, "Oh, there's a script that they're writing, a script about you," and I was like, "Yeah, that just sounds impossible, and that's just not interesting to me whatsoever." And then I would hear about it more and more. It kept coming, the news of this screenplay about some version of me was in the air, and I kept saying to my agency, I'm just not interested. I have no interest in playing myself in a movie. It's just not something I'd want to do. And then it started to heat up, and I got another call saying, well, there's this script, and my agent, Andrew Finkelstein, said, this is really something you should look at. And then my other agent read 10 pages and said, absolutely not. No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Well, then I got a letter from Tom Gormican, the writer-director, and it was a nice letter. And it was the kind of letter that I could tell had genuine enthusiasm in it. I could tell it was intelligent, and it looked like someone that actually had some knowledge about my filmography. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. You know, I started doing this when I was 15 professionally. And to say that after 42 years that this is something new in my life in cinema, and it is kind of extraordinary. I felt like I've done a little bit of everything already, but I've never done anything like this before, which meant that the experience was both exciting and terrifying. This is really trippy, you know. I started getting anxiety that they're actually calling me Nick, and they're actually calling me Mr. Cage, and I'm like, wait, I'm not supposed to be, I'm always a character, I'm always playing a part. So it was terrifying, and it was exciting, and I will probably never see the movie. It was a little bit like going down memory lane as far as it pertains to Nikki. Like, what was my energy like back then? And I would look at some old interviews. I remember I kept looking at the Wogan interview in England that was kind of, you know, spectacular for both good and bad reasons, and thinking, well, that's a good model in terms of the look. I mean, I remember at first Tom wanted it to be like Con Air. I go, but Con Air is Cameron Poe. That's not Nikki Coppola or Nicky Cage. That's Cameron Poe. This is what I was like. This is the actual personality. He goes, well, that's a little, you know, keyed up. I said, so let's find a way to relax it a little bit, but let's use that for the look and the energy. And I thought that was a good choice. Sharon was great as my ex-wife in the movie. Boy, is she the real deal. And Lily Sheen was, there's a real kind heart there, and you know, it's hard not to feel paternal when you're working in a situation. Plus, I've never had the bliss or the pleasure of, you know, being blessed with both sons and a daughter. I have 2 boys, and that's it. But that's good because in the way they're telling this story, it supports the fictionalized account of Nicolas Cage. I do things like, if I'm making a comedy, there are dramatic moments. If I'm making a drama, I try to make sure there's comedic moments. This is a comedy, but Tom really wanted to play up the drama. He wanted it to be sincere. He didn't want it to be overly broad. He didn't want it to be, overly goofy, that, if there's tears, there's real tears. And I subscribe to that. Whatever the fascination has been on the internet, the memification, whatever it is that because of a performance style that was intentionally chosen by myself to explore a dynamic in film performance that went into surrealism or the abstract or what have you, people in media have, and you attach that to a couple blips in one's personal life over 42 years, and suddenly that becomes the perception of an individual, when in fact, I find myself really rather boring, and I find myself really rather, to many people's disappointment, normal. So I'm excited for them to laugh and get some humor out of this, which we can all use right about now. And I'm excited for them to go on the ride. The narrative is unique. It goes through all kinds of twists and turns that are unusual for a studio film, a commercial studio film. This movie is taking risks.